anti-bullying task force. So maybe this is a good time to talk about how your work on the task force goes together with what you do here at Diversity Council.
Well, here at the Diversity Council, we do education, anti-bias education, prejudice reduction education. Basically, making people aware of their unconscious biases, bringing it to the forefront, talking about it, and how it starts, and how to change people's mindsets. So basically, I'm kind of a social scientist and work on changing people's behaviors from being negative to more positive, so we can interact better with each other as we go into the world and to become better global citizens. And, that's just how it is. With technology, we have to interact with people who are different from us on a day-to-day basis if we want to be prosperous and healthy and welcoming to new individuals into our community. And that's what makes our communities much more interesting and integrally vibrant. But I've been here for about a year and a half. I do education in the schools, K through 12. Sometimes I go and do some parent trainings to talk a little bit about what they can do for their kids to make basically what's important about teaching these lessons is that it needs to be reinforced. I can't just go in and teach kids like how to be nice to each other if they go home and their parents are telling them something different. But if I have parents that reinforce the message that I'm sharing, then it sticks, and then it goes through. And then these students can go through life a little easier because basically they know how to interact with other people who are different from them, which is basically everybody. We're all individuals. We all have differences. There are things that sometimes we don't see. People who have mental illness, people who may be LGBT, people who just aren't, in different religions, basically.
How are your programs accepted here in the community? What's participation like, particularly for the parent programs?
Here's some information. As a teacher, that people who show up to trainings are people who want to learn, who want to know more. I would like to outreach more to the people who don't show up, because most likely those are the ones that need it the most.
Sure.
But I think we go around with already preconceived notions, and whatever information we do get just reinforces our belief systems. And that's always kind of difficult because sometimes those belief systems can be hurtful or harmful to people.
So, how do you think, what are some ideas you have about reaching those parents that aren't coming to these training sessions?
Well, I usually go on TV and on radio, and newspapers.
Now that you're a Rochester celebrity, has that boosted
a prominent
attendance?
Minnesota resident.
I'm sure there's a line out the door now, right?
I know. I do get a lot of contact. I've been contacted by the Boys and Girls Club, the YMCA, and so those are parents. Those are kids who have parents that are usually can't show up because they work or things like that. So at least I'm having opportunities with other nonprofit organizations that are working with at-risk youth and families. So that's good. We really just try to work hard to get the message out to different people and just let them know the importance of what it means to have this type of education for the success of young people especially, and for older people, because the way that industry or companies are moving is more towards team-based innovation. And if you don't know how to work in a team, you won't be successful. And that's really what it comes down to. It's about being successful in life. It's about understanding that the best way to solve problems is to use different ways of thinking, and not using the same thinking that creates problems. That's not a new thought, actually. But it seems to be a new thought for a lot of people, and we just kind of continue to share that information with people.
It's like that old saying, what's the definition of insanity? Doing the same thing again and again, expecting different results.
Yep.
So how does the Spark program, the program that you are the leader of, fit in with the mission of Diversity Council?
First of all, the Spark program is our flagship program. The Diversity Council started over 20 years ago in response to the race issue that was happening in Rochester. There was a lot of, it was also after the Rodney King beating, so there was all this race riots and violence, and so, and I think over 20 years ago, Rochester was not as diverse, and so the conversations about race were uncomfortable for people, but it was needed. You could probably, I was talking to a resident who had been here for 20 years, and she said, you know, it was a very small group of African Americans that were here, and you would know everybody. But as you know, over the years, she has noticed it. The demographics of it grow and change as the Somali and Sudanese communities, more African Americans from other urban areas move to Rochester because of opportunities, because of jobs, because of family safety. So because of, in this short period of time, when you have a very homogenized community grow into a very diverse community, there is going to be some conflict and growing pains. So it was initially started as a RPS, Rochester School District, RSD, initiative. It started with them to kind of basically do workshops, and I don't think it was as big. I don't think it was in all the schools. I probably did staff trainings and parent trainings and some youth trainings, and then eventually it broke off and became the Diversity Council, a standalone 501c3 nonprofit. And so I think in the last 12 years, originally Spark was the prejudice reduction workshops, which is not very attractive or sexy, so we changed it to Spark. Ignite change, spark conversation. And so we've been in the classrooms for about 12 years, mostly in Rochester Public Schools, K through 12. We try to get into all the classrooms, all the grades. Sometimes, but it is a partnership. So we have to build that relationship with the teachers if they want us in their classrooms. And if they're the leadership, like, you know, the superintendent or the principal of the school, if they're on board, they're going to try and work really hard to make sure that we're in the classrooms when we ask to be in the classrooms. There, of course, are some teachers who don't participate or don't think it's worthwhile for us to be there. Some teachers, because we've been around so long, and I don't know if they don't think that we're effective or our lessons are not, you know, something that they support. But it's okay. We sometimes have low years. There was a year that we had reached 17,780 students.
Wow.
And then there was a year where we only reached 11,000 students. So on average, we try to outreach, you know, to as many students as possible.
Do you think you spend more time in elementary, middle school, high school? Is it pretty mixed?
Currently, we spend a lot of time in K through 5 and 6 through 8. High schools are really difficult. Learning development is a little bit different, and what lesson plans and getting into the classrooms because of the scheduling is really hard. They don't all have similar classes that we can just be in, so we have to work really close with teachers and for them to like schedule us in, and that's really how we've been doing it, is trying to work, you know, find those teachers in the high school classes that want us to be there. And that's always been a good relationship. But it is about personal relationships. It's about trust. It's about finding people who believe in the mission and vision of the Diversity Council and what we do, and that it is helpful for their students' academic success.
Well, I'm a teacher, and you know, this will be my 4th year working with Rochester Public Schools, and I've not had any experience with Spark trainings in the buildings I've been in, and I've always sort of wondered about that. So that's good to hear. Why haven't I seen it, and how does this happen? And honestly, as a teacher, I just didn't know. I didn't know how to go about how to incorporate that, and so some of it I don't know if it's teacher resistance. I think it's just not having information and not knowing that this is even available.
It's multi-levels. You might not have gotten the email. If you were not on our email list, we go through the schools. We send a letter out to the school secretary, the principal, and then we also send out letters to all the teachers to let them know that we're going to be in your class. The teachers that sign up, we let them know that we're going to be in the classrooms. But if you don't get the email, like if you don't open your emails and read them,
I do open my emails.
But just know, you could ask and say, hey, is there a Spark workshop scheduled for this year? I want to know, I want to sign up. And, or if they're not, say, what can we do to bring them here? And that is important. We've tried to really be better about marketing, and for the last year and a half that I've been on this, as a manager, I've really tried hard to outreach to the schools better. To send them information further ahead. We do a lot of the scheduling. Like, we scheduled most of the schools in March, April, in May to make sure that we can somehow incorporate into the teacher's curriculum. So we let them know, okay, we're going to be here in this month and this week because this is when your school said that they could schedule us. And then at that point, then the school decides, okay, we're going to send out these sign-ups. When do you want to sign up for these classes? And I know, like, you're at Golden Hill this year, and we haven't been to Golden Hill, but, we are more than happy to come and do some workshops with the students if we just ask. And we can just set it up, schedule it, work it out with your school secretary or administrator.
Okay. Are the minority liaisons in schools connected to the Diversity Council?
Yes and no. I think the jobs of minority liaisons are very limited. To what they do and their capacity, but we do try to work with them when we're trying to organize and get groups together of students for like focus groups or like after hours trainings and programs and things like that, or just for volunteerism. There's some kids that want to volunteer for after school stuff.
I'm kind of hogging it here. Do you have any questions about Diversity Council or Spark training you want to ask?
I guess my main question was, in all your programs, like what specifically are you sort of doing to break down cultural barriers that you could see that it's like the similarities between cultures are just like incredible in the way people think it's just all the same, and making kids understand that people from different countries aren't actually that different.
All the lessons are age appropriate. They're strictly in accordance to Minnesota curriculum guidelines. So each grade, like in kindergarten, we talk about same and different. In first grade, we talk about first grade. I'll say second grade. Second grade, we teach kids about disabilities, other students who have disabilities, and we do little activities with them, like read books to them about what it's like to be in a wheelchair, or if you were blind. We give them Braille cards. Third grade, we have a banana exercise, where we show kids that each banana is different, but they're all part of a bunch. So you can still be the same, but on an individual level. Fourth grade, we talk about race and how people, just because of differences, like, I have brown eyes, you have blue eyes, and we can somehow just say, because you have blue eyes, you're better than me. But that's just like, a stereotype. What does stereotype mean? Why do we reinforce those negative stereotypes? And then actually stereotypes for the most part are all usually negative. Even if you say, oh, I'm Asian, I'm good at math, it reinforces negative stereotypes for people who are Asian and not good at math. So how do they live up to that? And we basically just ask kids